subscribers. We have been growing very rapidly recently, and I just wanted to thank everybody for their support. Now on to the creepypastas. We're trying something just a little different, and we are going to be reading two Pokemon creepypastas. We'll be reading Trapped in a Cave and Pokemon Black in that order. These are definitely a little more on the disturbing side, so just be warned. At least this first one, I'm not as sure about the second one. Alright, so let's get into the readings then. It was nighttime. The wind was blowing rather strongly at the base of Mount Horn. In a small, rarely traveled by part of the mountain was a bunch of rocks that looked a little out of place. The reason was that those rocks had fallen from the top of the mountain, closing the entrance of a cave inside, a cave that had no exit. Inside the cave was only darkness, except for one source of light, a faint flame that was coming from the tail of a Charizard. It was rolled up, holding an adult man protectively close to its belly. The man had only one arm. His other arm and both of his legs were missing. He was asleep, but the Charizard was awake. It stared at the man with worry and sadness in its eyes, almost as if it was afraid of something. Eventually, what the Charizard feared happened. Its stomach rumbled, making a loud noise. It flinched and closed its eyes. The man woke up and yawned weakly. "Ruby," he called out to his Pokemon. The Charizard replied reluctantly. "Are you hungry, girl?" the man asked as he brought his only arm up and stroked the Charizard's head gently. Ruby flinched again and quickly shook her head, denying her hunger. However, her stomach betrayed her by rumbling loudly once more. The man simply smiled. "Come on, you don't have to lie. I already told you you must tell me if you're hungry." Ruby kept shaking her head, trying to say that she was not hungry. "Don't worry, it's alright," the man said, trying to comfort her. Patting her head, Ruby hugged her trainer, her eyes becoming watery. "Ruby, if you don't eat, you'll starve," the man whispered. Ruby only seemed to be more unsettled. She began crying a little. "Please don't cry. You have to eat," he said, sighing a little. He stroked her head again. "I won't be able to pet you anymore, but I can still show you affection another way," he said, reaching up and kissing the Charizard's forehead. "Now please, you have to eat." The man shuffled a little so he was standing up with what was left of his body. He extended his arm and placed it right in front of Ruby, who only stared at it with sadness and tear-filled eyes. "Please, Ruby, I promise that it won't hurt me," he said, smiling. He had already gone through this 3 times, so this wasn't going to be any different. Charizard," Ruby cried out, shaking her head. The man simply moved his arm closer to her. "You must eat." With that, Ruby gave up. She closed her eyes and silently cried as she opened her mouth. The man placed his arm between her large fangs. "Go on." Trying to make it as fast as she could, Ruby closed her mouth and in a swift motion bit off a part of the man's arm completely. The man winced and tried to maintain himself in place. Tears kept flowing down Ruby's face as she chewed her trainer's arm, the only food she had in that cave. "Arg. Good girl," he said, smiling despite the pain. Once Ruby was finished eating, she quickly snuggled closer to her trainer and hugged what was left of him, which was now only his body and his head. He was breathing hard, but he was still smiling all the way. Are you full now?" he asked simply. Ruby hugged him tighter and nodded, weeping. "Good," he said, looking at her saddened face. "Ruby," he began, looking into her eyes. promise you'll make it out of here." Ruby cried. She knew what he meant by that. She cried and cried, hugging her trainer tightly. Long after the man had gone back to sleep to conserve what little energy he still had, Ruby kept crying. She cried harder than ever before. She cried because she knew what would happen the next time she got hungry. Alright, now we'll jump into the next story, which is, of course, Pokemon Black. I'm what you could call a collector of bootleg Pokemon games. Pokemon Diamond and Jade, Chaos Black, etc. It's amazing the frequency which you can find them at pawn shops, Goodwill, flea markets, and such. They're generally fun, even if they are unplayable, which they often are. The mistranslations and poor quality make them unintentionally humorous. I've been able to find most of the ones that I played online, but there's one that I haven't seen any mention of. I bought it at a flea market about 5 years ago. Here's a picture of the cartridge in case anyone recognizes it. Unfortunately, when I moved 2 years ago, I lost the game, so I can't provide you with screen caps. Sorry. The game started with the familiar Nidorino and Gengar intro of Red and Blue version. However, the press start screen had been altered. Red was there, but the Pokemon did not cycle through. It also said Black version under the Pokemon logo. Upon selecting New Game, the game started the Professor Oak speech, and it quickly became evident that the game was, essentially, Pokemon Red version. After selecting your starter, if you looked at your Pokemon, you had, in addition to Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle, another Pokemon, Ghost. The Pokemon was level 1. It had the sprites of the ghosts that are encountered in Lavender Town before obtaining the Self-Scope. It had one attack, Curse. I know that there is a real move named Curse, but the attack did not exist in Generation 1, so it appears it was hacked in. Defending Pokemon were unable to attack Ghost. It would only say they were too scared to move. When the move Curse was used in battle, the screen would cut to black. The cry of the defending Pokemon would be heard, but it was distorted, played at a much lower pitch than normal. The battle screen would then reappear, and the defending Pokemon would be gone. If used in battle against a trainer, when the Pokeballs representing their Pokemon would appear in the corner, they would have one fewer Pokeball. The implication was that the Pokemon died. What's even stranger is that after defeating a trainer, and seeing Red received $200 for winning, the battle commands would appear again. If you selected Run, the battle would end as it normally does. You could also select Curse. If you did, upon returning to the overworld, the trainer's sprite would be gone. After leaving and re-entering the area, the spot where the trainer had been would be replaced with a tombstone, like the ones at Lavender Town. The move Curse was not usable in all instances. It would fail against ghost Pokemon. It would also fail if it was used against trainers that you would have to face again, such as your rival or Giovanni. It was unusable. It was usable in your final battle against them, however. I figured this was the gimmick of the game, allowing you to use the previously uncapturable ghosts. And because Curse made the game so easy, I essentially used it throughout the whole adventure. The game changed quite a bit after defeating the Elite Four. After viewing the Hall of Fame, which consisted of Ghost and a couple of Pokemon I used for HMs, the screen cut to black. A box appeared with the words, "Many years later." It then cut to Lavender Town. An old man was looking at tombstones. You then realized this man was your character. The man moved at only half of your normal walking speed. You no longer had any Pokemon with you, not even Ghost, who up to this point had been impossible to remove from your party through depositing in the PC. The overworld was entirely empty. There were no people at all. There were still the tombstones of the trainers that you used Curse on, however. You could go pretty much anywhere in the overworld at this point, though your movement was limited by the fact that you had no Pokemon to use HMs. and regardless of where you went, the music of Lavender Town continued on an infinite loop. After wandering for a while, I found that if you go through Diglett's cave, one of the cuttable bushes that normally blocks the path on the other side is no longer there, allowing you to advance and return to Pallet Town. Upon entering your house and going to the exact tile where you started the game, the screen would cut to black. Then a sprite of Caterpie appeared. It was replaced by a Weedle and then a Pidgey. I soon realized as the Pokemon progressed from Rattata to Blastoise that these were all the Pokemon that I had used Curse on. After the end of my rival's team, a youngster appeared, and then a bug catcher. These were the trainers I had cursed. Throughout the sequence, the Lavender Town music was playing, but is slowly decreasing in pitch. By the time your arrival appeared on the screen, it was little more than a demonic rumble. Another cut to black. A few moments later, the battle screen suddenly appeared. Your trainer sprite was now that of an old man, the same one as the one who teaches you how to catch Pokemon in Viridian City. Ghost appeared on the other side, along with the words, "Ghost wants to fight." You couldn't use items, and you had no Pokemon. If you tried to run, you couldn't escape. The only option was fight. Using fight would immediately cause you to use struggle, which didn't affect Ghost, but did chip off a bit of your own HP. When it was Ghost's turn to attack, it would simply say, dun dun dun. Eventually, when your HP reached a critical point, Ghost would finally use Curse. The screen cut to black a final time. Regardless of the buttons you pressed, you were permanently stuck in this black screen. At this point, the only thing you could do was turn the Game Boy off. When you played again, New Game was the only option. The game had erased the file. I played through this hacked game many, many times, and every time the game ended with this sequence. Several times I didn't choose Ghost at all, though he was impossible to remove from the party. In this case, it did not show any Pokemon or trainers, and simply cut to the climatic battle with Ghost. I'm not sure what the motives were behind the creator of this hack. It wasn't widely distributed, so it was presumably not for monetary gain. It was well done for a bootleg. It seems he was trying to convey a message, though it seems I am the sole receiver of this message. I'm not entirely sure what it was. The inevitability of death, the pointlessness of it. Perhaps he was simply trying to morbidly inject death and darkness into a children's game. Regardless, this children's game has made me think, and it has made me cry. Alright, so those ended up being much shorter than I thought they were. So we're going to read one more called Disabled. When it comes to Pokemon, my favorite have to be Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff. When I was a little girl, I dream of having a puffy Jigglypuff. I even used to have a bunch of plushies. They would surround my pillow, and each night I would cuddle with a different one, just to make sure they each got some love. Anytime my Jigglypuff or Wigglytuff used Sing, I would hum the little tune with them, thinking it made my chances better for the opposing Pokemon to fall asleep. I was very naive back then, but it was blissful innocence, to be honest. Hell, I even played Jigglypuff in the Brawl games. I didn't care if anyone else didn't like her. I did. So when I got my hands on Pokemon Soul Silver when it first came out, I, of course, made it my mini mission to find a Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff. gaslight, a cheater. Next day, though, I finally got my first Jigglypuff. I happily named her June and put her in my party ASAP. It took some time to get her up to the level of the rest of my team, but well worth it for me. I even kept her sing, since it felt so nostalgic to hear that lovely tune again. Sadly, school got busy for a while, so I was forced to put my game on hold. But once I got my free time back, I went right back to work, making sure all my Pokemon loved me, especially my June. But I still didn't have my Wigglytuff. I didn't want to lose June, so I thought about getting an already evolved Wigglytuff, since Safari Zone had proven its dislike of me. So I set a call on the wireless trade, asking for a Wigglytuff, any gender, and any level. I wasn't picky at the time, but now I wish I had been picky. In exchange for a new Wigglytuff, I put out a wonderfully bred Totodile that had some killer moves, even for a level 6. I waited for hours thinking someone would see the quality right away and send a trade. I waited days. Maybe someone would just happen to want a Totodile to raise. Nearly 2 weeks had passed, and I still had no response. I had given up hope and was ready to use a Moonstone on June. I ended up checking one last time to make sure, and I wanted to get my Totodile back somehow, if no one was going to take him. But it didn't send me to the main menu for the wireless trading. Instead, I got the dramatic evolving music, and a Pokeball came flying from the top screen to the bottom. Finally, I got my Wigglytuff. I quickly logged out to see my new friend, a female Wigglytuff, level 26. The name was a bit odd though, disabled, in all caps. I didn't get why someone would name a Wigglytuff that, but I had seen stranger names for Pokemon. I just wish I could have changed it, but for some reason you could never change the name of traded Pokemon. Its information was a bit odd, but I was never one for those kinds of details, or learning the meaning behind those details. Gloomy nature, and it only knew one move, Sing. I didn't recall ever seeing Gloomy before, but I had seen Timid, so I figured if they could be shy, they could be sad too. Though, you would have to wonder why Pokemon would be gloomy, and the fact it only knew Sing did bug me. It would have been nice if the previous trainer left some more moves, but I had some nice TMs to try on it anyway. Despite the off information, I was eager to try out the Wigglytuff in battle. I checked my character's bag and picked the best TM I was almost sure would work. I ended up picking Hidden Power, Swagger, and Explosion. I headed over to the nearest patch of grass and walked around aimlessly looking for a fight. The battle music came on, and the Pokemon was a Ponyta. I picked Fight, just to make sure Wigglytuff's first fight was easy. It failed. Well, I knew Sing didn't always work, so I didn't think anything of it. Ponyta used Tail Whip. It was cute, but only lowered my defense. My turn again, so I used Hidden Power, just to see if I was in the right place for it. I wasn't, since I barely made a nick in the Ponyta's HP. It used Tail Whip again. I figured that was the game. Using the same trick the lower Pokemon used. This time I tried Sing again. The screen acted like I had used Sing, but there was no sound. Sing was disabled. I just stared at my screen. How was it Sing unusable? Was it a stupid trick? I let Ponyta use its Tail Whip again, but then Wigglytuff shook a bit like it was suffering from an effect. I thought I saw the sprite change, but then I realized that I probably got a glitchy Pokemon. I cussed a bit, pissed that I had lost a good Pokemon for a hacked one. I didn't want this one messing with my game, so I picked Run. Disabled wants to fight. You could not leave the battle. Oh, come on, I remember saying out loud. I kept thinking that it was about to ruin my game. I thought Ponyta was about to attack this turn, but it didn't. Its little sprite shook like it was poisoned. Ponyta was frozen in fear and might not attack. I knew this was getting too weird. I tried to pick Run again, but another weird text came up. Disabled wants to fight. You cannot leave the battle. I didn't even see that the text was different this time. I was about to pick another option. I couldn't run, so I fought. I tried Hidden Power again. Hidden Power was disabled. I had to pick another one. I tried Swagger. Swagger was disabled. What was this? What was doing this to its moves? All these questions popped up in my head, one after another. What did that guy who gave me this Wigglytuff do? I have to escape. I can't keep this Pokemon. I knew I could just turn the game off, but I wanted to see what was happening. I wanted to see what was wrong with my Wigglytuff. I was stuck with two options, Sing and Explosion. Sing was already disabled from past attempts, so I could only use Explosion. That move would take out the Wigglytuff and the Ponyta too, ending the battle. I thought maybe it was a good thing. Explosion was disabled. It didn't even have a chance to react before more text came up. Disabled tried using Sing. Sing was disabled. It was doing it on its own. The sprite started shaking a bit more than before, more obviously. Ponyta is frozen in fear. It can no longer escape from battle. I felt my heart starting to pound. Maybe this Ponyta was feeling the same. Disabled tried using Sing. Sing was disabled. 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 Each time the text passed, Wigglytuff's sprite turned darker and darker. Disabled used struggle. I watched in horror as the Wigglytuff used struggle, like it had no other moves to use. Most of the time didn't even hit the Ponyta, just itself. The Ponyta fled from the battle, and the sequence ended. I wish I could have gone with it. Since Wigglytuff was the first in my party, it was walking along with me on the screen. Its colors looked dirty and red could be seen on it. I turned to my character to talk to it. It didn't say anything to me. I tried again, becoming strangely desperate to find out what was happening to the Wigglytuff I was so joyed to finally have. ... I just wanted to sing. I wasn't sure who was talking. Maybe it was a voiceover, I thought. I talked to it again. Why? Why can't I sing? Just sing. Sing. Each time I spoke to it, its cry grew softer and softer, like it was a toy breaking. I began to feel bad for Wigglytuff, and headed back for the city to heal it. It was the least I could do before I turned my game off, taking it back to the time when I just barely got it, before I used it. Sadly, we didn't get far. We encountered another Pokemon battle, another Ponyta. I picked Run, but just like last time, Disabled wants to fight. You cannot escape the battle. No one had time to react to what happened during the fight. Ponyta was too slow for some reason and was stuck in battle. The options menu did not come up for me. Disabled tried to use Sing. Sing. There was so much text it moved off the box itself. It was finally glitching out, I thought. Disabled used struggle. It struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled. With each struggle, Wigglytuff took more and more damage, though this time the wild Ponyta got hit more this time too. The wild Ponyta fled. I thought the fight was over, but the battle screen stayed up. I began mashing the buttons, thinking maybe it was going to talk again, and I needed to press A or B. The screen faded and changed to the evolving screen. I couldn't speak. My heart sank and I felt my eyes begin to water. The once normal Wigglytuff sprite was faded. Its left ear was torn off, and red pixels covered the broken ends. Its tired eyes were pitch black with only a red dot to show its pupils. Even its mouth had red coming from it, like blood was dripping out. Why can't I sing? Why? Can you sing? Yes or no? I pick no. I just wanted this to end. You're lying. You can sing. Give me your sing. Yes or no? I hit no about 4 or 5 times. Sing. The speaker creatures let out a high-pitched screech, making me drop my DS to get it away. I ran out of my room and called a friend. I couldn't touch the game after that. My friend came over, seeing as I could not hide the panic I was feeling. She laughed at me, but I told her I wasn't touching the game. She picked it up for me and looked at it, shaking her head as she turned it off and closed it. She handed it back to me. "I think you broke it," she told me, leaving my room and heading for the living room. She stayed with me the rest of the day and night. I couldn't get that image out of my head. The next morning, with my friend sitting next to me, I put the Wigglytuff up for trade. I found someone that was offering a Cyndaquil in exchange for a Wigglytuff. And I hit the button as hard as I could, wanting it to hurry up. The trade went through. I still have that Cyndaquil. Whoever had him named him Hurry, which I think is a reference to another creepypasta called Pokemon Lost Silver or something along those lines. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing if you're not already. I would really appreciate it. I think what we'll be doing tomorrow is actually diving into a manga as well. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. I'm probably going to be looking for a manga that's not super long, so no like One Pieces or anything. Just so eventually we could get a completed series up on the channel. But besides that,